Where would we be without the various products delivered by the men and women in the trucking industry? Healthy Conversations in Trucking podcast is a platform for professional long-haul truck drivers to share their journeys over the road, educating listeners about the trucking industry and lifestyle. Now, let's dive into the conversation on this brand new episode. Greetings, everyone, and thank you for joining me on this episode. I'm your host, Dr. Charlotte Huntley, and I'm flying solo today. I'm not joined by my husband and co-host, Jonathan, but our guest on this episode is a friend of Jonathan's. Surprise, surprise. He seems to know everyone, but they go way back. They've been friends for many years, way before either one of them was ever in trucking. So let me introduce our guest, and then I'll connect my conversation with him shortly after that. You'll get a chance to meet and know a little bit more about our guest, who is owner-operator Antonio Sessions, as he shares his journey from law enforcement to trucking on this particular episode and our conversation. As he explains how trucking sort of fell into his lap, you'll hear several examples of entrepreneurship. You know, he's definitely the entrepreneur. He thinks like a businessman, and you'll hear it throughout our conversation. Antonio talks about how, despite being a personal trainer and someone who's always been really healthy and fit, he still gained quite a bit of weight when he first went over the road. And he talks about how that impacted him and what he's done about it. So just listen all the way through, because he really drops a lot of great little tips, and there's a lot to learn just from hearing how he's been addressing this challenge, as well as a whole lot more. So let me go ahead and connect my conversation with Antonio right now. All right. Well, everyone, thank you for joining us on this episode. I'm really excited to introduce you to our guest this time around. Antonio, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm really good. I've been looking forward to this conversation because we've been playing a little bit of tag trying to get it set up on the back end, but we're finally on the call together.
Right.
Well, why don't we just kick off with you telling everybody a little bit about yourself?
How you doing, guys? Again, my name is Antonio Sessions. Been trucking for about 2 years now. I'm an owner-operator, have my own company, Alpha Male Trucking, LLC. I also do personal training. I've been personal training for now probably about 8 years, strictly online coaching. I have 4 kids. I'm married. And yeah, that's it for now. That's just the introduction of me.
Awesome. So when you say personal training, you mean training for truck driving or training for exercise?
I train for exercise. So basically, one of the things that I target is individuals that's trying to do weight loss or muscle gain or just trying to live a healthy lifestyle. So I target those individuals. And like I said, I used to do it where it was just personal training, one-on-one, or either group training. But now, since I've been driving truck, it's strictly online coaching where, I produce meal plans for people to change their eating habits. I also have training videos that I send to them, or workout plans and things of that nature.
Oh, that sounds interesting. I'm glad I asked that question because I was assuming something different. But that's really good to know. I may have to circle back later with that and talk to you about that a little bit more. So let's dive into your journey. I love hearing these stories about how people get into trucking. So how long have you been in trucking?
Man, I'm still a baby in trucking. I've only been in trucking 2 years. And I honestly just stumbled on trucking. I was in law enforcement for 13 years, enjoyed it. I think around the 10th year, I started figuring out that this is not what I want to do for the rest of my life. And then I started figuring out, wanted to be an entrepreneur. So trucking just kind of fell in my lap. Did company trucking for a while, probably about a year. And then year and some change, I got into own operator where I bought my first truck. And I am currently doing own operator now.
Oh, okay. So do you like that better?
Yes. And the reason why is because I pretty much get to make my own schedule. I pretty much, can have that flexibility in my scheduling. So I like that better. And I definitely like that better than being a company driver.
Yeah, that sounds, that would appeal to me as an entrepreneur. I like having the flexibility and the ability to just kind of create my own routine the way I want it.
Absolutely.
So you said it kind of fell in your lap. Is that a suggestion or recommendation, or you just kind of discovered it was a good business opportunity? Like, how did it fall in your lap?
Well, I didn't realize that I had a lot of friends and colleagues and people that I knew that was in trucking. So, once I started doing my research and, finding out, because I was looking for something that was going to be, how can I say it, job security. Mm-hmm. Because obviously, if you look at it, nothing that goes within America or moves in America is not bought on here on the truck. Mm. So I'm looking like, okay, I was in law enforcement, I had job security. So my whole thing was, okay, what can I get that's going to be job security? So when it fell in my lap, I started doing more research on it, seeing that, it would be something that I would enjoy doing because I don't like redundancy. So, I go to different states. My day is never the same. Yeah. And I don't like sitting in the office. Yeah, I'm in a truck for sometimes 9 or 10, 11 hours, but it's different scenery, it's different things that I'm doing. So that definitely was a fit for me. So that's why, I kind of dived in it, full force.
Yeah. So tell me about what you haul.
I used to haul, currently I haul refrigerated items, which is anything that's cold or, like produce, anything, meats and things of that nature. So I'm hauling like a lot of refrigerated items at the moment.
Okay. Is that what you've done before?
Before that, I used to do dry van, which is anything that it can go from, from parts, from anything, anything that goes into a 54-inch trailer. It can be anything, so It's a wide variety of things. But right now it's just refrigerated items. So I'm the guy that's going to bring in your food to the grocery store so it can get to your house.
Yeah, I am. That part really, I guess driving down the road, I never thought that much about what was in the trailers of these trucks. And so as I've gotten to know more drivers and I hear about what's being hauled and I learn about that, it just kind of blows my mind to think about all the things that are truly delivered on those trucks. So,
absolutely.
Yeah, that's really amazing. So how much time do you spend over the road before you go back home?
Well, in the beginning, that's the thing about it. You have to make that sacrifice probably the first 6 months to a year when you're a new driver, because a lot of guys, they want to immediately jump into a day job where you could be home every day. And a lot of companies are not going to hire you or don't want to hire you because you don't have the experience. So initially I was over the road, maybe 2 or 3 weeks at a time. And then it narrowed down to 7 days. But now I can be home during the week and be home on the weekend. Like I said, my schedule is a little bit more flexible now. And so you can put my hometown weekly now versus 2 or 3 weeks out,
Okay.
So yeah, I don't want to I don't want to give a misconception that when you get in the truck, you can immediately do every day.
Right.
A lot of guys think that. So it just depends on, your experience level.
Yeah, that's, I think I have experienced all of those schedules, as the wife of a truck driver, but just, being gone for several weeks versus that sort of a week routine where it's not really falling on the weekends, but every so many days. And that one's kind of rough because it's hard to find a routine and a pattern sort of at the home side to match up with when he's coming and going. But, I do like the consistency in a schedule, knowing what to expect is really nice. It helps you be able to plan things, especially with a family.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
Yeah. So where do you travel? Mostly, do you have a particular area that you pretty much travel within, or are you all over the place?
I can travel all 48 states. But, now that I'm getting more time in, I'm trying to keep it in a regional perspective, like South Carolina, Georgia, Florida, Alabama, Mississippi,
Okay.
Maybe Virginia, PA, things of that nature. So that way, if something happens, I can be home because I live in South Carolina. I can be home within 8 hours because you have 11-hour day, 11-hour clock. So if I drop off a load and I'm picking up or whatever the case may be, I can have that time to be able to get home, at a scheduled time. So I try not to go too far out, but I have the capability to go as far as I want.
That makes a lot of sense. It kind of reminded me of when my kids first went to college. I remember thinking, I like them to be close enough that I could get to them in an easy road trip. So knowing if something happens, you can get home within a few hours is good. So this is where I like to ask a lot of like what you like the most, maybe, what you like the least. But since you've traveled all over the country, what is your favorite part of the country? Or is there a favorite state or town or region or something that you like to travel? Do you have a favorite for traveling?
That's a good question. I don't know if I have a favorite. Maybe I have a preference. Like, okay, so for truckers, and this probably will just be for trucking people only. Like, if you're traveling and you're an own operator, because it really wouldn't affect you if you're a company driver. But part of this I don't really like the mountains. If I don't have to go through the mountains, I prefer not to. So if you're going way out west, you're going to be dealing with a lot of mountains, and if the weather is bad, inclement weather, you're going to be dealing with all the snow, and that's a lot of adverse driving. So I particularly like to keep it in the South, maybe Midwest every now and then. So, and then when you have to pay for a lot of your own expenses, you got tolls, and a lot of that is like going up north. So it ain't really how much. It's not really how it looks. It's like what's going to cost me the most money.
Right. Yeah.
In terms of traveling. So for me, it's going to be south, where there's not a whole lot of mountains, not a lot of tolls, and not a lot of inclement weather.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my favorite.
This from the business perspective.
Exactly, from a business perspective, But from another perspective, probably it's good to see, the pretty mountains when the weather's not bad, and these tall buildings in the larger cities. If you're looking at it from a tourist point,
right?
But I never really look at it at that point.
Spoken like a true entrepreneur.
Like right. So yes.
So let's think about trucking just in general. Since of the time that you've been truck driver, I want to know what you like most and what you like least. So let's start with what you like most. What do you like the most about what you do?
I like most about what I do is the flexibility, and I don't have nobody calling me with the micromanaging and I got to report this person. I don't like that. I don't like that type of working environment. So that's probably the most that I like about it. The least I like about it is it's probably being away from my family long periods of time.
Yeah.
Whether it's a few days or whether it's a week, that's the most that I dislike about it.
Yeah, that's tough. I can definitely understand that. So let's talk a little bit about some of the health challenges. What is the biggest health challenge or health related challenge for you over the road? I know it varies from person to person, and the conditions are, all different, but just the sheer sedentary type of driving. So you're sitting for hours and hours and hours can be a bit of a challenge all by itself, and some of the other kind of conditions related to the work environment, the limitation of just the truck stops and things like that. But for you, what's the biggest health related challenge over the road?
I'll tell you this. Okay, so I'm a fairly decent sized guy, mainly because I've been a trainer, but I've worked out majority of my life. So I'm probably about 5'10" and probably about around 240-ish. So when I got into trucking, I was a little bit more leaner than I am now. And I already told myself, because trucking sometimes get a bad name when you see overweight individuals. So because they sit a lot and they eat the wrong foods, and, they make, bad decisions in terms of their health. So make a long story short, when I got into trucking, I already knew, okay, I'm going to keep this up, I'm going to keep that up. And I felt like I was a little bit more prepared than other people. But man, I tell you, in a year's time, I probably gained 40 pounds.
Wow.
And so what that did was it made me go back to the basics. So, being that I am an own operator, I can kind of, I have a refrigerator and a microwave in my truck. So what I do now is I do the grocery shopping, I do the cooking in my truck, and I set out small meals. And in the beginning, I was just being able to carry some type of exercise equipment, whether it's bands or dumbbells or things of that nature. I try to, when I stop for the day, I try to work out. If I stop to get fuel, I'm doing jump rope, something to get my heart rate up. So now that I have my own schedule, I make it a priority to go to the gyms at least 3 days a week. And what gym I go to is Planet Fitness. And they're not sponsored by anything. I'm not sponsored by them.
Right.
But the reason why I'm using their name is because it's great for truckers, because I tell you, 9 out of 10, any state that you go to, you're going to have a Planet Fitness in a proximity of where you're at. So, and the membership is only $10. So you can't beat that. And they're 24 hours. And you also can take showers there. So it's like golden for a trucker because, we have to take our showers at a truck stop. So if you're able to work out, take a shower there, and shut down, when I say shut down is park your truck there for the night. I mean, that's a win-win situation. Like, that is like a perfect setup for me because, I can do everything from that area. So it allowed me to get back into the shape that I'm used to being in for the most part. I'm still work in progress because of the schedule. Sometimes I still fall off where I may eat something that I normally don't eat at a truck stop. So that's the challenges of being on the road, being a trucker with your health.
Wow.
I hope I'm not rambling on.
No, that was good. That was really helpful. I'm sure a lot of folks are, this is going to be helpful. And I think it's interesting how you say, even given your background, being relatively fit and in good shape and coming into trucking, you're just, you're aware of the challenges and you say, okay, I'm not going to let this happen. And then you say you gained 40 pounds in the first year. I think that speaks a lot to okay, this is my scientific hat on right now because I did a lot of research on these things, but this is what speaks to the impact of that working environment. The challenge, everything is kind of set against, like you're going against the grain. Even for someone who's intentionally trying to do all these things, it's still setting you back. So for someone who's kind of blindsided and not aware of all of this, it really can be a heavier blow. When they get into the industry, and it shouldn't be that way. But I'm glad you shared this little find about Planet Fitness. I may have to reach out and chat with them a little bit.
Yeah. Just to add on to that, like you said, like I was mentally prepared, physically, everything that I needed to be prepared because I thought I knew the challenges, I could beat the challenges. But just imagine a person that is not prepared at all, and they just, because with trucking, you have to have a physical either yearly or every 2 years. If you have health problems, it's yearly. If you don't have health problems, it's every 2 years. So if you're not in some type of healthy state and you don't pass that physical, you can't drive a truck.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's important that guys are health conscious,
Right.
Or, and females as well. So,
right. I'm looking forward to bringing some females on the show to talk about some of these challenges too. Because as I've mentioned before, not even considering trucking industry, just if we just took women and men separate, our health challenges as women are so different than men. So when you put them into the trucking environment, that just amplifies it. So I'm really looking forward to bringing women onto the podcast to hear their perspectives on this as well.
Absolutely. And what I would do is I would share your podcast with your permission in a trucking group that you will probably get more females to join in because it's just strictly truckers.
I would really appreciate that. I would really appreciate that because that is how, yes, absolutely. Sharing this with others is how we're going to be able to get more conversations, more voices sharing the platform. And I'm looking forward to speaking with them. So yes, you absolutely have my permission to share.
Absolutely.
So I have one more question for you and then we can wrap up. I want to know for people who are listening and, maybe interested, or maybe having some of the challenges that, you've discussed. Do you have any tips or advice? I know you talk about the fitness and all that, but what kind of advice could you leave for other drivers who may be facing some of these similar challenges, or someone who's thinking about coming into trucking and maybe considering over the road?
Well, I'll start with the ones that's thinking about coming into trucking. If you're thinking about coming into trucking, you need to, if you have a spouse or you have some family situation, you need to talk that over with them so they can understand that, listen, you're going to be away from home, or you're going to be able to be prepared for that mentally, because a lot of people look at the money side of it, but if you don't have a peace of mind at home, then it doesn't even matter. And so I tell the people that's trying to get into it, whether they're just doing company or own operator, just be prepared mentally, because this is a mental state. A lot of people get out here, they be like, oh, I'm going to make all this money, and they can't even be away from home for 3 days. Mm-hmm. Or they can't say, oh, I may can't take a shower today. I may have to wait 2 days to take a shower. Like, you have to take all that in consideration, that can you sleep in a truck? You're in a box. Like, it's so many different factors than just driving. And a lot of people think, oh, yeah, I'm ready to go out there and make this money. I'm ready to do this. But they can't even sleep in the truck. And if you don't get the certain amount of rest, you can't perform. So just be mindful of that. And the business side, that would take all day, but just be prepared with that in terms of, what truck you want to buy, do your research on that. Just really dig deep in that. That probably is a whole nother segment on that. Mm-hmm. Just for the guys that's already in trucking, that's having challenges, you need to first, don't be so hooked on trying to get on a diet per se. Just kind of cut back on the fast foods. Mm-hmm. Just try to eat small meals, whether it's just like for instance, a lot of meals that you can eat while you're driving, whether it's like trail mix, protein shakes that's already made, just little small stuff, where you can keep and definitely stay hydrated. Mm-hmm. A lot of guys don't stay hydrated, and I know that's probably going to be annoying when you have to use the bathroom, but a lot of men truckers, they know, I'm not going to put it on air, but they know what you can do when you have to use the bathroom in a truck. So just make sure you stay hydrated, keep the small meals. And that's just some simple advice that's not complicated. The less you eat, the less weight that you're going to pick up and less calories that you have to burn. Mm-hmm. So, just keep that in mind.
I think that was really good. I like the fact that you say keep it simple, small steps. That's a big thing here. Don't try to do everything at one time, but the small steps, are really good. I know one time, a small step could be, drinking water instead of any other drinks. Like when you're drinking instead of sodas or tea, just drink water. That could be one thing that can eliminate some sugar. And,
absolutely.
That's one thing that people get a lot of results from too. So.
Absolutely.
Well, this has been great. I appreciate you taking some time and speaking with me. I know you're driving. You're probably close to the stop that we talked about before we started recording. But
yeah,
thank you.
Away.
Yeah, okay. So
just in time.
Yeah, so I do this really well because when I talk to Jonathan on the road, I find out first how much time I have so that I can frame what I want to say and time it before he tells me I gotta go. So I time that pretty well. But thank you. Yeah. I really appreciate you taking some time. I enjoy the conversation, and I'm sure our listeners will as well. So we'll be in touch.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for listening to the Healthy Conversations in Trucking podcast. Learn more or be a guest on a future episode by visiting healthyconversationsinTrucking.com or simply HCITpodcast.com.